What would you do if the very people who erased you invited you back without even realizing it? I hadn't stepped foot in Charleston in 9 years, not since the night I was thrown out with nothing but a suitcase, a busted cell phone, and a name I wasn't allowed to speak again. My own. Now, I was walking through the golden-arched entrance of the High Wind Country Club, the same one my mother used to joke was too elegant for the likes of us, back when we were pretending to be humble. My heels clicked against polished marble as crystal chandeliers shimmered overhead like they were mocking me. Every corner smelled of old money and new lies. I wasn't on the guest list. I knew that before I ever booked my flight. They had erased me from everything. Birthdays, holidays, family photos. I didn't exist to them anymore. But I wasn't here to be welcomed. I was here because my little sister, Emily Sullivan, was getting married, and I wanted to see how far she'd climbed on the ruins of my silence. I wore black. Not the soft, understated black of mourning, but a sharp, clean, velvet black dress with a slit high enough to make people whisper, and a neckline that reminded them I was no longer the girl they used to manipulate. My makeup? Immaculate. My eyes? Steel. The first person to recognize me was Aunt Diane. She dropped her champagne flute. It shattered, fitting. "Karen," she whispered, like the name itself had power. I smiled at her, the kind that held teeth. A hush fell across the reception hall like someone had pulled the fire alarm. Heads turned, forks froze midair. Then, like she'd summoned me with her guilt, my mother, Valerie Sullivan, emerged from the crowd. Her hair was pinned perfectly. Her pearls were the real kind. She looked like a southern debutante, still pretending she hadn't sold her soul for status. Her expression faltered the moment our eyes met, but she composed herself within seconds. "Why are you here?" she asked. Her voice clipped like she was talking to a wedding crasher and not her firstborn daughter. I tilted my head, pretending to admire the floral arrangements. White roses, peonies, orchids. Emily always wanted what she didn't deserve. "I got an invitation," I said, sipping my champagne. "It was addressed to me. Strange, right? Considering you had me removed from every family record like I never existed." That's when I saw Emily. She came down the staircase like a pageant queen. Her dress was custom, silk and lace with a sweetheart neckline, a train flowing behind her like a river of purity. She looked every bit the part of the perfect bride. Until she saw me. Our eyes locked. Something flickered behind her lashes. Fear? Rage? Or just a surprise that the ghost of her past had materialized in the middle of her fairy tale? "Karen," she said, and even now, even here, she couldn't keep the condescension out of her voice. "You're not supposed to be here." I smiled, wider now. "You're right. I'm not." And then I turned away, slowly scanning the crowd. The guests, the press, the groom's political family who didn't know they were about to become part of a scandal so deep it would take months to scrub clean. "I'm not here for you," I said, voice low enough for the bride and my mother to hear. "I'm here for the truth, and I'm going to make sure everyone hears it." The music shifted. The string quartet awkwardly resumed. Conversations resumed, but the tension didn't fade. That was the point because no one knew what I would do next. They thought they buried me. But I came back in heels sharper than the knives they stabbed me with. And I was ready to return everything they'd given me. Doubled. They say time heals all wounds. That's a lie made up by people who never had to bleed alone. After I left the country club that night, before the storm I'd promised had even started, I drove back to the motel where I'd first laid my head 9 years ago. Room 107. The wallpaper was still peeling. The vending machine still stole your dollar half the time. But to me, it was holy ground. That was where it all began. I was 18 when my parents kicked me out. Not with anger, not even with loud voices. No, it was worse than that. It was quiet, calculated, cold. My mother handed me a packed suitcase and said, "You made your choice, Karen." My father didn't even look up from his laptop. My choice? Telling the truth. Emily had lied. Again. That time, it was about a teacher at school who accused him of something awful to cover for her cheating. And when it spiraled out of control, When the poor man's career was on the line, they told me to back her story. I couldn't. I wouldn't. So they erased me. No car, no college fund, no, we'll figure this out. Just a rainy porch and a door that clicked shut behind me. I spent the first week sleeping in a diner booth just outside Atlanta, ordering 1 cup of coffee every few hours so they wouldn't throw me out. The waitress there, Brenda, must have known what was going on. She brought me free toast, let me wash dishes in exchange for cash under the table. Eventually, she let me sleep in the office when the manager wasn't around. Brenda had a scar down her cheek and a past she never talked about. But she gave me a chance when my own family wouldn't glance at me. And when you've got nothing, even a little kindness feels like salvation. I spent 2 years in that diner, working nights, saving tips in a box I kept duct-taped under a loose floorboard in Brenda's office. Every night I'd wipe down greasy counters and repeat the same mantra, "You are not gone, you are becoming." I found an old Chromebook on clearance and used the diner's spotty Wi-Fi to take online classes, nutrition, business, chemistry. I wanted something of my own, something that couldn't be stolen or twisted or thrown out the way I had been. But the worst part wasn't the hunger or the cold or even the shame. It was the silence. No one called, no one checked in, not even Emily, not even on my birthday. They pretended I had died, and in a way I had. But the girl they buried, she didn't stay dead. She learned how to build a new life with her bare hands. By 21, I'd moved to Austin, Texas, with enough saved to rent a studio the size of a closet and file the paperwork for my own business, Sullivan Wellness Co. The name was the first knife I turned in the lock, using the family name they tried to strip from me. It was my way of saying, you can't erase what I reclaim. I started small. Instagram posts, cheap protein shakes, budget meal plans for single moms. Then TikTok found me. And suddenly, I wasn't just surviving, I was growing. I got a grant from a nonprofit focused on urban nutrition, then an investor, then a second. By 25, my company was valued at over $30 million. People called it a miracle. I called it penance. Every sleepless night, every burned fingertip, every moment of doubt, I paid in full. But nothing prepared me for what I found next. I'd applied for a business loan and been denied for discrepancies in my tax records. At first, I thought it was a glitch. But when I pulled my file, it was all there. Dozens of strange entries. Clinics I'd never visited. W-2s from hospitals in states I hadn't lived in. My social security number had been used and stolen. At the top of the list? Sullivan Family Medical Clinic, back in Charleston. My father's clinic. The same one he used to call our legacy. He had used my name, my number, to cover up fraudulent billing, Medicaid scams, ghost employees. It had been going on for years, and it was about to be exposed. I didn't cry. Not even then would I do it. I just stared at the screen, my own stolen identity glaring back at me. My past hadn't just been forgotten, it had been looted, weaponized. And the people who did it still walked free, still smiled in family portraits like nothing ever happened. So I hired an attorney. I brought on a digital forensic specialist. I filed for access to everything under my stolen credentials. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I just made a plan. Because revenge isn't loud, it's patient. And mine had waited long enough. Some people chase closure. I never did. Closure was a lie sold by therapists and talk shows, a fancy bow you're supposed to tie around something rotten. I didn't want closure. I wanted the truth, exposure, justice, and maybe, if I was being honest, just a little bit of destruction. But first, I needed to become untouchable. You can't destroy people who still have power over you. That's rule number 1. I wasn't going to throw a rock at a glass house unless I had a fortress of my own. And so I kept building. While the legal wheels turned, I played the long game. I expanded Sullivan Wellness into a national brand. We launched supplements, hired a full-time PR team, and opened physical locations. Every news article that ran my name was another nail in the coffin of the lie they built about me. But the irony? They still didn't know. Not my father, not Emily, not my mother. To them, I was a ghost who had vanished into nothing. They were too self-absorbed to notice the woman in the headlines sharing their last name. too proud to think the daughter they disowned could become something more than a footnote. It was almost insulting how easy it was to stay hidden in plain sight. My real opportunity came when I was invited to speak at a women in wellness conference in Charleston, the same city they lived in, dined in, and cheated in. I walked that stage like I owned it. My face was on banners, my voice echoed across convention speakers, and still, no one from the family showed. Not even Emily, who once swore she wanted to be just like me. She meant the version they could control. After the conference, I visited the law office I'd hired months prior. They handed me the final report, conclusive evidence of fraud dating back nearly a decade. Multiple employees were implicated. False signatures, mine, over and over. With one more forged document, they would have been able to claim me as a silent partner. They didn't just forget me, they profited from me, and it all connected back to the wedding. You see, the Sullivan name weighted Charleston. Reputation, legacy, and whispers of politics are in the air. Emily's fiancé, Brandon Reynolds, was from one of those families. Old money. His father sat on the state ethics board. The wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a transaction. 2 names, 1 future, and a perfect lie standing at the altar. So I waited until the date was set. I watched as invitations went out, photos were posted, and champagne tastings were documented on Instagram. Then, I made a decision that would set everything into motion. I bought a house in Charleston, quietly, cash, 5 blocks from the old Sullivan estate. I began appearing in the places they loved to haunt, the organic markets, the equestrian charity events, the galas where cameras were always flashing. Sometimes I wore sunglasses. Sometimes I didn't. Still, they didn't notice. Because the truth is, people only see what they're ready to face. And my family had spent years pretending I didn't exist. Their denial was my camouflage. But beneath the surface, I was moving pieces. I rebranded my legal documents under my full name, Karen Evelyn Sullivan. I made sure it was public. I made sure it reached the right inboxes. And then, I leaked just enough information to stir curiosity without pointing fingers. A whisper here. A curious journalist there. I didn't need to shout, I just needed to flick the first domino. Because the wedding wasn't going to be a reunion, it was going to be the reckoning. Weddings are supposed to be sacred. A beginning. A promise. But for me, Emily's wedding wasn't a celebration, it was a stage, and I was done waiting in the wings. The week before the ceremony, I sat in my car outside the Sullivan estate. It looked the same. Columns like ivory fangs. Hedges trimmed with surgical precision, the American flag always flying just a little higher than it needed to. It was a house built on image, on silence, on secrets. But I wasn't a secret anymore. On the day of the wedding, Charleston shimmered with southern spring charm. The venue was a sprawling garden estate just outside town, the kind that looked plucked from a movie set. Arched gates, flowering dogwoods, a white gazebo at the center like a crown. Guests arrived in pastel silk and designer heels. The champagne flowed. Laughter danced over string quartets. To them, it was perfection. To me, it was the final act. I didn't crash it. Not really. My name was on the guest list. Not by mistake. A week earlier, I'd called the event coordinator, pretending to be one of the bride's cousins. I told her I hadn't received my invite. She was apologetic, flustered, and said it must have been a mailing error. I gave her my name, full and clear. Karen Evelyn Sullivan. She added it. Just like that. No one checked. Because in their minds, I didn't exist. I arrived in the Navy, not black, too obvious, not red, too desperate. Navy was power, grace, quiet control. My heels tapped against the stone path as I passed servers, photographers, and guests who had no idea what was coming. The ceremony hadn't started yet. I found my seat near the back, where the press wouldn't catch me but the family would. And then, I waited. The music began. Brandon stood at the altar, smiling that perfect, camera-ready smile. Emily appeared at the top of the aisle in a cloud of lace and white illusion. Her train dragged like a veil of lies behind her. Her smile was flawless. Her makeup was unbothered. until she saw me, one step, two, and then her gaze locked onto mine. She faltered, just slightly, a stutter step. Only someone who knew her well would have noticed, but it was enough. I smiled. She recovered quickly. She always was a fast liar. The ceremony went on. Vows were exchanged. Applause erupted as they kissed. But I wasn't clapping. I was watching my mother. Valerie sat 3 rows from the front, pearl earrings glittering beneath her hat. Her posture was perfect. Her smile was frozen. She hadn't seen me yet. Until the reception. I waited until they were all gathered in the grand tent. Guests sipping cocktails, the newlyweds taking photos, laughter echoing like nothing could touch them. Then I made my move. I stepped onto the small side stage where the band had just finished a set. I took the microphone. Calm, measured. "Hi, everyone," I said, smiling like I belonged. "My name is Karen Sullivan. I used to live in this town." Heads turned. The conversation stopped. "And I have a story I think you'll want to hear." From the back, I saw my mother's face, pale, still. Brandon looked confused. Emily was already moving, trying to get to the stage. Too late. I was disowned by the Sullivans 9 years ago. No call, no explanation. Just gone. But I didn't disappear. I built something. I succeeded. And when I started looking into my past, I discovered something. Fraud, tax evasion, identity theft, my identity, used by the very people who pretended I no longer existed. Gasps rippled through the tent. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. A murmur spread like wildfire. My father's clinic used my name for fake employees, for billing schemes, for years. And the documents don't lie. I have them all. And in 24 hours, so will the IRS, the state board, and every news outlet from here to DC. Emily reached the edge of the stage. "Karen, get down." I looked right at her, calm, measured. "No, Emily, I'm done staying quiet so you can play perfect." I handed the microphone back to the stunned bandleader and walked off stage without another word, because I didn't need to shout anymore. I was the storm now, and I had already landed. There's a strange silence after an explosion. It's not peace. It's the sound of people scrambling to make sense of the pieces. That's exactly what happened after the wedding. 1 minute, glasses were clinking, and photographers were lining up for posed portraits. Next, half the guests had their phones out, recording me, whispering my name like it was a curse suddenly remembered. By the time I reached my car, the videos were already online. I watched the first clip sitting in the driver's seat, hands still steady. The caption read, "Disowned daughter crashes sister's wedding with fraud accusations. Charleston elite in chaos." The view count ticked up by the second. It didn't take long for local reporters to latch on. I didn't have to send anything to the press. They came to me. I gave one interview, calm and measured. No theatrics, just facts, documentation, dates, signatures, bank records. My attorney released the forensic audit to the proper authorities. The reaction was swift. The Sullivan Family Medical Clinic went under state investigation within 72 hours. My father, Dr. Richard Sullivan, was suspended from practicing medicine pending a formal review. They found nearly $1.8 million in false billings under my name alone. Emily tried to deny it publicly. Brandon didn't say much at all. Not after his father, head of the state ethics board, had to recuse himself from the case due to a conflict of interest. That conflict was me. The media swarmed them for days. Photos from the wedding were picked apart online. People analyzed every facial expression, every reaction, every moment frozen in time. And I stayed silent, not because I was scared, but because I'd already said what needed to be said. Let the truth echo louder than I ever could. But the headlines were only part of the fallout. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring twice before answering. "Karen?" The voice was soft, careful, familiar. It was my mother. "I saw the video," she said. We didn't know it went that far. If I had known..." I cut her off. "You didn't want to know." There was silence on the line. I didn't fill it. Then finally she spoke. "We thought you'd come back. One day. We kept waiting." That made me laugh, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You kicked me out. You left me with nothing, and then you used me. There's no we in this story, Mom, just me, surviving, while you watched from behind a curtain. More silence. Then, a shaky breath. What do you want? And there it was. Not an apology, not regret, just damage control, the Sullivan way. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. I don't want anything, I said. You already gave me everything I needed. Your silence taught me how to speak. Your betrayal taught me how to fight. And your erasure? I exhaled slowly. That taught me how to become. She didn't call again. Neither did Emily. A week passed, then two. The clinic shut its doors. Brandon's father issued a public statement distancing the Reynolds family from the Sullivans. Emily's marriage, all 3 weeks of it, ended in an annulment. And yet, it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like clarity. Because what I did wasn't about burning them down. It was about stepping into the fire they lit for me and walking out untouched. And I wasn't done yet. Using my story, I launched a campaign, Daughters Rewritten, focused on helping young women legally reclaim their stolen identities, rebuild credit, and fight back against familial financial abuse. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in. Girls who were silenced, forgotten, manipulated. I wasn't alone. I'd just been early. For every Karen Sullivan the world tried to erase, there were thousands more waiting to speak. And I was going to help them find their voices. 1 year later, I stood in front of a packed auditorium in New York, receiving a humanitarian award from the Women's Legal Defense Fund. The cameras flashed. Applause thundered. My name rang out, not as a warning, but as a reckoning. Not as the lost daughter, but as the one who came back. Have you ever looked in the mirror and finally seen yourself, not as who you were told to be, but as who you became? That moment came for me 1 year after the wedding. I stood in the foyer of my new home, not a house built on legacy or secrets, but one I built brick by brick, with no ghosts in the walls. And I saw her. Not the girl they abandoned, not the woman they tried to erase, but the storm that rose anyway. Everything I had done wasn't about vengeance. That's the part most people misunderstand. It was never about making them suffer. It was about making me whole. After the chaos faded, after the articles stopped printing and the headlines turned to something shinier, I had time to think, to feel, to breathe. And for the first time in nearly a decade, I let myself remember the girl I used to be, the one who cried herself to sleep in a stranger's apartment at 19, the one who sold everything she owned for a single suitcase and a one-way bus ticket, the one who stood in front of a cracked mirror in a cheap bathroom whispering, "You're going to survive this." I wanted to hold her. I wanted to tell her she wasn't crazy, dramatic, or broken. That she was becoming. That the pain wouldn't be permanent, but the power she built from it would be. That's the thing about abandonment. It makes you believe you are unlovable, until you start loving yourself enough to prove that wrong. My work with Daughters Rewritten exploded. It wasn't just a passion project anymore. It became a full-blown foundation. We partnered with attorneys, therapists, and financial experts. We hosted retreats, legal workshops, and community events across the country. We provided emergency housing, scholarship programs, and survivor-led mentorship. And I made sure the girls who came through our doors knew they weren't just clients. They were survivors, warriors, authors of their next chapters. One of them, Alana, 17, from Memphis, wrote me a letter after her case was won. It read, "You saved me without even knowing me. I thought being invisible was safer. But you taught me that speaking up doesn't make you weak. It makes you real." I keep that letter in my office drawer. On the hard days, I read it again. Because of her story, it was mine once too. Eventually, people started asking about reconciliation. Would you ever speak to your family again? Could you forgive them if they apologized? Don't you want to let it go? And I get it. We're taught to idolize forgiveness. But forgiveness without accountability isn't healing. It's performance. And I don't perform for anyone anymore. I didn't send anyone to prison. I didn't ruin their lives. I just told the truth, loudly, publicly, and without shame. What do they do with that truth? That's on them. The last time I saw Emily was on a random Tuesday afternoon, nearly 2 years after the wedding. I was leaving a meeting at a legal clinic when I passed her on the sidewalk. She was thinner, paler, still beautiful, but faded in a way I couldn't explain. She froze. Our eyes met, and she didn't have words for the first time in her life. I nodded. Not out of anger, not even out of spite, just acknowledgement. She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked past her before she could. Because I didn't need closure. I was the closure. That night, I went home, poured a glass of wine, and sat by the window. The city lights shimmered, and somewhere below, life kept pulsing, unbothered by history, unaffected by bloodlines. And I felt it, peace. Not the kind you fake at family dinners or whisper about in therapy, the real kind, the kind that comes from taking back your narrative. My name is Karen Evelyn Sullivan. I am not a cautionary tale. I am not the black sheep. I am not your shame, your regret, or your forgotten daughter. I am the woman you tried to erase and failed. And this is just the beginning. Looking back, I realized the deepest revenge wasn't in exposing them. It was in choosing me. I learned that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, the kind that keeps you standing when everything around you tries to bury you. I used to think closure came from confrontation, from getting the apology, the explanation, the acknowledgement. But the truth is, closure comes from within. When you stop chasing validation from those who hurt you and start building a life so full, their absence no longer echoes. That was the lesson. I was never theirs to break. It was always mine to rebuild. The bank statement trembles in my hand, a living thing pulsing with dread. I clutch it tighter, but the numbers, $5 each month for 2 years, blur and swim before my eyes, mocking me. My pulse hammers in my ears, a relentless drumbeat, as I stand frozen in my parents' living room. The air chokes with the cloying scent of Linda's lavender diffuser, a smell that once meant home, but now claws at my throat. My boots sink into the worn carpet, the same spot where I used to sprawl with crayons. Invisible, even then. We have proof now, Serene. You've been lying to us. Linda's voice slices through the silence, sharp and precise, each word a blade honed over years of practice. She sits on the edge of the couch, her posture rigid, her graying hair pulled into a tight bun that matches the accusation in her eyes. Tom looms beside her, his broad shoulders squared, his finger jabbing at the paper in my hand. The force of it makes me flinch, a reflex I can't unlearn. We thought you were sending $1,500, he growls, his voice gravelly from decades of barking orders, at me, at the world. But this? Pennies. His hazel eyes, so like mine, narrow into slits of betrayal. I blink hard, trying to make sense of the impossible. $5? Not $1,500. My chest tightens, a vice squeezing out the air I didn't know I was holding. I've been sending it, I whisper, my voice thin, unsteady. The words feel like a plea, but they don't hear me. They never do. Linda scoffs, that familiar sound, a short, dismissive huff I've known since I was 16, clutching a scholarship letter that wasn't enough. Don't lie, Serene. It's right here. She gestures to the statement, her manicured nail tapping the evidence of my failure. Across the room, Ashley leans against the wall, arms crossed over her leather jacket. She's 25, 3 years younger than me, but she carries herself like she owns the place. Silver hoop earrings glint as she tilts her head, examining her chipped nail polish with studied boredom. Something flickers across her face. Not guilt, not triumph, just a shadow I can't name. The light catches her new smartwatch, a sleek thing I don't recognize. My stomach twists, a cold thread pulling tight. I don't understand, I say, louder now, but the words dissolve into the lavender haze. The room spins, a carousel of accusation, and I'm the only one dizzy. They stare at me, Linda with her cutting certainty, Tom with his righteous fury, Ashley with her silent calculation. The statement slips in my grip, and I know whatever comes next will unravel everything I've built. The warehouse hums at midnight, a beast that never sleeps. I'm 28, but my body feels older, hunched over a clipboard at Horizon Food Co., the fluorescent glare searing my retinas until they ache. The memory hits me with physical force as I stand in that living room, the bank statement still burning my palm. 2 years of this, counting pallets, scanning barcodes, my lower back screaming with every twist. The concrete floor chills my feet through my sneakers, a cold that seeps into my bones and stays. I choke down granola bars on 10-minute breaks, the kind that taste like cardboard and desperation. No time for real meals, no energy for anything but the next shift. My hands, rough from handling crates, tremble as I log numbers under lights that buzz like angry wasps. It's for them, I tell myself. Linda, Tom, the family I owe. The $1,500 I scrape together each month, wired to the account Ashley swore would help. Weekends vanish into the delivery app grind. I drive through suburbs, smiling at strangers who never look up, their groceries thumping onto porches while I calculate tips in my head. My car smells of stale coffee and regret, the dashboard clock ticking past midnight again. Just a little longer, I whisper to the empty passenger seat, my voice hoarse from exhaustion. 2 jobs, 2 years, all for that $1,500. My blood, my sweat, my life, distilled into a bank transfer. Back at the warehouse, the forklift's whine drowns out my thoughts. I cancel plans, dinners with Mia, movies I can't afford, because every dollar counts. My reflection in the break room mirror shows sunken eyes, a jaw clenched against the ache. I've given everything, carved myself hollow to keep them afloat. The thought steadies me through the endless nights, a mantra against the pain. They need me. They need this. Now standing here, the statement in my hand whispers a different truth. $5, not $1,500. The memory of those nights, the fluorescent burn, the protein bar grit, the stranger's doors, crashes into me, a wave I can't outrun. My knees buckle, just for a second, before I catch myself. How can it be wrong? How can 2 years of breaking my back amount to this? The lavender air thickens, and I realize I've been running on a treadmill that's never moved. Back in the living room, the air crackles, a storm about to break. Tom folds his arms across his chest, the same stance he took when I begged for college help at 18. You owe us $30,000 in back payments, he announces, his voice a judge's gavel. My breath catches, a sharp hitch I can't hide. 30,000. The number lands like a brick on my chest, crushing the last of my air. Linda gestures to the statement, her hand slicing the space between us. We can see the transactions. Serene. $5 a month. That's it. Her tone is final, a verdict I can't appeal. I blink at the paper, my proof of sacrifice reduced to a lie I didn't write. I've been sending the money, I say, louder now, my voice shaking but holding. Every month for 2 years. She scoffs again. That sound I've memorized. High school, the scholarship, the couch that became my bed when Ashley needed my room for her yoga mats. Don't play games, she snaps. I look to Ashley, seeking something, shock, confusion, anything human. She glances away, suddenly captivated by the curtains, her smartwatch glinting as she shifts. The cold seeps deeper, a realization crystallizing. She knows. 2 years ago, over brunch, her idea sparkled. Let's each send $1,500 a month, she'd said, her hazel eyes wide, sincere. They've done so much for us. I'd nodded, squeezed my budget until it bled. picked up that second job. It's easier this way, she'd insisted, handing me an account number. I'll make sure they get it. Now, her silence screams louder than Linda's accusations. Show me Ashley's transfers, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Tom's eyes narrow. Serene, he warns, low and dangerous. Linda's tone shifts, softens, the one she saves for her golden child. Ashley's been supporting us more than enough. My spine stiffens, a flicker of steel I didn't know I had. Show me her transfers, right now. Ashley pushes off the wall, her leather jacket rustling. I just remembered. I've got a work thing, she says, her voice too bright, too brittle. She's out the door before anyone can blink, her footsteps quick on the hardwood. I grab my phone, hands trembling but sure, and pull up my banking app. The screen glows, every 1,500 withdrawal, a digital scar of my sacrifice, sent to the account she gave me. I look up, meeting Tom's gaze, then Linda's. They stare back, a united front of entitlement and blame. I have proof, I say quietly, of every payment. Linda waves her hand dismissive. Just show us the account number. I turn the screen toward them, the string of digits stark and undeniable. Tom squints, then his face darkens. That's not our account, he mutters. The room tilts, and I know. The truth is about to crack wide open. The driveway stretches before me, twilight bleeding into the gravel as Ashley's Jeep idles, a low growl cutting the dusk. My heart slams against my ribs, a caged thing breaking free. I burst through the front door, legs carrying me with a strength I didn't know I owned. She's hunched over the steering wheel, thumbs flying across her phone, oblivious until my palm slams her window. The bang echoes, and my phone screen lights my face, evidence glowing in the gathering dark. She jumps, her phone clattering into her lap. For a split second, her eyes, hazel like mine but colder, widen with real fear before she smooths her features and rolls the window down a cautious inch. Serene, what the hell? She snaps, but her voice wavers, a crack in her armor. Where's the money, Ashley? My voice doesn't sound like mine. Low, hard, a stranger's fury. Where's the $36,000 I've sent for the last 2 years? Her manicured fingers tighten on the wheel, knuckles blanching under her silver rings. You're being ridiculous, she says, but the confidence slips, a thread unraveling. I shove my phone through the gap, the screen blazing with truth. Look at these transfers. Every month. $1,500 to the account you gave me. I scroll, the list endless. 2 years of double shifts, canceled plans, nights I fell into bed too tired to dream. The same account you said would help them. Her facade fractures. Her shoulders slump, the smartwatch sliding down her wrist. I needed it for my lifestyle blog, she whispers, eyes on the dashboard. The clothes, the trips. You know how expensive it is to keep up. A laugh tears from me, too sharp, too hollow, slicing the air between us. Your blog? I echo, the word tasting like ash. She finally looks at me, and what I see chills me more than her confession. No remorse, just calculation. A predator sizing up prey. They believe whatever I tell them, she says with a small shrug. They always have. The casual cruelty knocks the wind from me, a punch I didn't see coming. My sister, my blood, built her life on my bones. I step back, the gravel crunching under my boots, needing space from her poison. You're my sister, I say, barely audible, a plea she doesn't deserve. She revs the engine, her jaw tight. And you're the fool funding my posts. She shifts into reverse, tires spinning. Good luck convincing them it's not your fault. The Jeep, my Jeep, really, paid for with my sweat, backs down the driveway, taillights flaring red in the dusk. I stand there, the phone warm in my hand, the lavender scent fading behind me. My parents wait inside, still hungry for their pound of flesh. For the first time, my spine straightens, not bending under their weight, but rising against it. I turn toward the house. purpose in every step, ready to face the storm I've ignited. The living room suffocates me as I step back inside, the air stale with entitlement and lavender. My phone burns in my hand, the screen still glowing with every $1,500 transfer, a lifeline I thought I'd thrown them now tangled around my neck. Linda perches on the couch, her bun tighter than ever, her eyes flicking between me and the evidence I've thrust into their world. Tom sits in his recliner, arms crossed, his jaw set like he's about to lecture me back to obedience. I plant my feet, the carpet, soft but unsteady, beneath me. I have proof, I say quietly, placing the phone on the coffee table between us. The numbers stare up, neat rows of sacrifice. 2 years, every month, $1,500 sent to Ashley's account. She admitted it outside. She took all of it. My voice steadies with each word, a thread of steel weaving through the tremor. I wait for the explosion, the outrage on my behalf, the parental fury at such a betrayal. Instead, Linda's expression softens, her head tilting in that way she reserves for Ashley, her golden child. She's still young, she says with a sigh, her tone a velvet glove over a fist. She makes mistakes. Tom picks up my phone, squints at the transactions, then sets it down with deliberate care, like he's handling a fragile lie. It's just money, Serene, he says, waving a hand as if $36,000 is pocket change. Why are you being so dramatic? The floor tilts beneath me, their words a warped mirror, reflecting someone I don't recognize. Dramatic? I echo, my voice rising despite myself. She stole $36,000 from me. Linda cuts in, sharp and quick. If you'd sent it to our account, this wouldn't have happened. I stare at them, these strangers who raised me, their faces a mask of blame I've worn thin. Why would I send it to Ashley's account in the first place, I ask, the question hanging heavy. Tom's face flushes, a rare crack in his armor. Because of the Social Security benefits, he snaps as if it's obvious. We needed it hidden. The final piece slots into place with sickening clarity, a puzzle I didn't want to solve. From the government, I say slowly, the words bitter on my tongue. Linda waves her hand, a gesture eerily like Ashley's shrug in the Jeep. Everyone does it. You had me commit tax fraud, I whisper, the realization a cold wave crashing over me. Tom stands, his height no longer towering but hollow. Either pay the $30,000 you owe us or we'll disown you, he says, his threat a blade aimed at my chest. Linda adds, and forget Grandpa Joe's inheritance. I turn without a word, my phone clutched tight, and walk out. The door slams behind me and I dial Mia, my voice breaking. I need help. My spine straightens, unbowed for the first time in years. My apartment feels smaller tonight, the kitchen table buried under bank statements, a graveyard of my sacrifice. 3 days have passed since the living room showdown, and I sit here, highlighter in hand, marking every $1,500 payment in neon yellow. The ink bleeds through the pages, a timeline of double shifts and missed sleep, each line a scar I'm reclaiming. My phone buzzes, 17 voicemails from Linda, 32 texts, 6 missed calls from cousins I haven't seen in years. Tom's been busy spinning his web. I snap photos from every angle. The cameras click a quiet rebellion. The evidence piles up, digital and tangible, a shield against their lies. Yesterday I met Greg, my financial advisor, in his leather-scented office. He leaned forward, his gray eyes sharp. You've been manipulated into a tax evasion scheme, Serene. Your parents were hiding income through Ashley. I wasn't surprised, but hearing it aloud made my stomach clench, a knot I'm still untying. What should I do? I'd asked, my voice small but firm. Document everything, he'd said, sliding a lawyer's card across his desk. Distance yourself financially. Consider legal action. The card sits on my counter now, next to a support group brochure from last night. 6 strangers in folding chairs, nodding as I spoke of Ashley's theft, Linda's denial. Their understanding wrapped around me, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. My phone pings again. Ashley's Instagram glows with a selfie, her eyes glistening with staged tears. Sometimes the ones you give everything to betray you, the caption reads. I screenshot it, add it to my folder labeled Family Lies, and block her. The highlighter squeaks across another statement, the yellow bright against the gray of my old life. 2 years of breaking my back, and they think I'll bend again. I won't. The room feels less cramped, the air lighter with each piece I gather. I'm building something new, not a cage, but a way out. The diner smells of coffee and bacon grease, a neutral ground I insisted on, far from their lavender trap. I slide into the booth, my parents' silver sedan already parked outside in its usual corner spot, safe from dings. Linda and Tom sit across from me, Ashley between them, her golden hair swept into a sleek ponytail, a united front. 3 menus lie untouched. They've waited for me, a rare courtesy that feels like a ploy. My purse digs into my side, a reminder of the boundary I'm here to draw. We're glad you agreed to meet, Serene, Tom says, nodding like we're in a boardroom. Linda reaches across the table, her hand hovering short of mine when I don't offer it. We just want to work this out, sweetheart, she says, her voice syrupy with concern. I notice the manila folder beside Tom's water glass, its edges crisp, and my gut tightens. What's that? I ask, my tone flat. Tom clears his throat, straightens his tie, a habit from his sales days. We've been thinking about how to resolve this. Linda jumps in, too eager. We know you're upset about the misunderstanding with Ashley, but... I cut her off, my voice a blade. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She stole from me, and you defended her. Ashley studies her napkin, her silence louder than any excuse. Tom slides the folder toward me, flips it open. A typed document stares up, highlighted sections glaring. $30,000 over 5 years plus $1,500 monthly going forward. For what you still owe us, he says, his tone matter-of-fact. I trace the neat columns with my eyes, a 5-year plan to bleed me dry after 2 years of giving everything. This seems fair, Linda adds, her smile brittle. We're not asking for it all at once. Behind them, a waiter delivers food to another table, the scent of garlic and butter wafting over. My stomach growls. I forgot lunch again, a habit from cutting corners for their payments. I place my fingertips on the document, slide it back across the tablecloth with a soft whisper. No, I say, the word simple, complete. Tom blinks. What do you mean, no? He asks, his voice tightening. I mean, no. I push my chair back, stand, looking down at them for the first time I can remember. I'm not paying you anything. Linda's hand flies to her throat, fingers grasping her silver necklace, a tick when she's rattled. After everything we've done for you, she gasps. What, Mom? Name one sacrifice, I say, my voice steady, unyielding. Silence stretches, a void they can't fill. Ashley's head snaps up. That's not fair. I cut her off. Nothing. You needed nothing from me. Tom's face darkens. Grandpa Joe would be ashamed of you, he says, aiming for my heart. Instead, it steadies me. He taught me to stand up, I say, a small smile curving my lips. This is me doing it. I turn, walk toward the exit, my boots clicking on the tile. Chairs scrape behind me, voices rise, Linda's plea, Tom's growl, but I don't look back. The evening air hits my face, cool and clean as the door swings shut. My lungs fill fully, a breath I didn't know I could take, and I know. I've broken free. The Horizon warehouse buzzes with late shift energy, the forklifts hum a steady pulse against the concrete walls. I'm logging inventory when the security guard, Mike, steps beside me, his walkie-talkie crackling. Carlos, my supervisor, insisted on this after I mentioned Linda, and Tom might show up. His dark eyes had narrowed, knowing. Your folks don't just stop by places, Serene, he'd said. Now, Mike's boots echo as we round the corner, and there they are, stationed by the reception desk like sentries, demanding tribute. Linda spots me first, her spine ramrod straight in her beige coat. Serene, finally. We've been waiting forever, she says, her voice clipped, impatient. Tom stands beside her, arms crossed, his gray hair catching the fluorescent light. The receptionist, Tara, catches my eye, mouthing silently. 20 minutes. I plant my feet, the clipboard cold in my hands. This is a place of business, I say, my voice steadier than I expect. Not somewhere you can just show up. We wouldn't have to if you'd answer your phone, Tom booms, drawing stares from passing coworkers. His volume rattles the air, a tactic I once shrank from. Mike steps forward, his broad frame, a quiet wall. Sir, I need you to lower your voice, he says, calm but firm. Tom's eyebrows shoot up, incredulous. Who's this? You need protection from your own parents now? Mr. and Mrs. Beck, Mike continues unfazed. Your daughter has requested family discussions happen off company property. I can escort you to the parking lot. Linda's face twists, a mask of wounded pride. We raised you better than this, she hisses. I glance at my watch. I have a meeting in 5, I lie smoothly, the words a shield. This isn't appropriate. Nothing about your behavior is appropriate, Tom snaps, his voice a low growl. Our lawyer will contact you about the money you owe us. The word lawyer sends a shiver through me, but my face stays neutral. 3 weeks ago, it would have broken me. I'll look forward to it, I say, nodding to Mike. Please escort them out. I turn, the weight of their stares burning between my shoulder blades, but my steps don't falter. The warehouse hum swallows their protests, and I breathe easier, my space mine again. My car idles in the supermarket lot. The engines purr a soft anchor after I slip out the side exit, abandoning my cart. 2 aisles over, Linda's voice had risen, sharp and familiar. If you hadn't spent the Crestview funds on Ashley's ridiculous blog expenses. Tom cut her off, gruff. Don't start with me, Linda. This is your fault for letting her. I didn't wait for the rest, my heart thudding but not racing. I'm calm, almost relieved, as I sit here, the rearview mirror catching my steady gaze. My phone pings, a blocked number slipping through. I've always seen how they treated you, the text reads. This is Aunt Karen. If you need someone, I'm here. I save it, a small lifeline from the wreckage. Another buzz? Ashley's card declined at Macy's. A full meltdown caught on video, spreading across Twitter. I don't smile, but something lifts, a weight I didn't know I still carried. Consequences, finally. At my therapist's office, the sage scent wraps around me as I pace. Dr. Lynn watches over her glasses. Tom called yesterday, I say, repeating temporary financial assistance like a spell. She nods. How did you respond? I stop, a rush of pride catching me off guard. I told him I could recommend an advisor. Dr. Lynn smiles faintly. And Linda? I sink into the chair. She called an hour later, saying she wants to fix our relationship. How do you feel? She asks, her voice a calm tether. Like it's the first time she's seen me beyond my bank account, I say. But it's too late. They only reach out because they need something. She leans forward. You're setting boundaries, Serene. That's progress, not selfishness. I nod, thinking of the neighborhood alert. Their house for rent, 3 streets over, the price a quiet confession of their fall. They're sinking, and I'm not. The thought steadies me, a new rhythm in my chest. My new apartment smells of fresh paint and possibility, sunlight streaming through windows twice the size of my old place. I set down a box marked kitchen, running my hands over the oak floors, smooth and cool under my fingertips. The realtor had frowned when I lingered here, signing the lease, but she couldn't know what it means. Space that's mine, not theirs. My phone buzzes. 3 missed calls from Linda, 1 from Ashley, a text from some cousin about their hard time. I delete them all, opening my therapy group chat instead. Moving day, I type. Feels like breathing for the first time. Replies flood in. Congrats, emojis, no demands or guilt. Just understanding from 7 souls who get it. I hang blinds, the fabric rustling as my phone lights up with an HR email. Promotion, it reads. 15% increase. My finger hovers over accept, a strange vertigo gripping me, not doubt, but freedom. I press it and the confirmation hits. My money, mine alone. You deserve this, Jenna says at work, her voice warm over the cubicle wall. She's 30, a friend forged in these months of chaos. Seriously, Serene, nobody works harder. I nod, staring at the screen, the words pulsing. It doesn't feel real, I say, my laugh sharp, genuine. Which part? She asks. Both, I admit. The job, the paycheck unshackled from their grasp. The warehouse feels lighter, today. Carlos's rotation schedule, ensuring someone walks me to my car each night. A buffer I didn't ask for, but welcome. Back home, I unpack a mug, the ceramic cool in my hands, when Mia texts. Spare room's yours if you need it, she writes. I smile, the group chat buzzing again. Celebration, not obligation. My laptop pings at work later, the promotion official, and I catch my reflection in the monitor. The tension around my eyes has softened, my jaw unclenched. I drive home, the city blurring past, and park outside my building, the weight of decades lifting with each step up the stairs. For the first time, I don't calculate what they'll take. I don't brace for their calls. The oak floors gleam as I stand in my doorway, my chest expanding with a breath that fills me completely. This is mine, my space, my life, reclaimed from their shadows. They'll learn what happens when my bank closes, but I'm already beyond their reach, thriving in ways I never dreamed. My car rolls through the dusk, the engines hum a quiet hymn as I leave their shadow behind. The city lights flicker beyond the windshield, a world I'm finally part of, not just funding. Their voices fade, Linda's voicemails, thick with practiced tears, Tom's demands, gruff and hollow, Ashley's pleas, brittle with panic. I delete the family chat, years of when will you visit, when will you send money, vanishing with a tap. My phone goes silent, notifications muted, and the stillness feels like a gift. At work, the promotion settles into my bones. The 15% raise a cushion I don't owe anyone. My apartment glows with morning light, the oak floors a promise kept to myself. Mia's laughter echoes from last night's dinner. My first date in a year, a guy who nodded at my family mess and said, I get it, boundaries matter to me too. The therapy group cheers my steps, their messages a chorus of freedom, not guilt. I'm thriving, a bloom breaking through concrete while they flounder. Their house for rent tells the story. 3 streets over, the price a humbled whisper of their pride. Ashley's meltdowns trend online. Linda and Tom bicker in public. Their silver sedan, spotted at discount lots. They face a reality they never prepared for, unready without my cash to prop them up. I don't care anymore, not out of spite, but release. The weight on my shoulders dissolves, each boundary a brick pulled from the wall they built around me. I catch my reflection in the rearview mirror, a smile spreading until I barely know myself. The Bank of Serene is shut, its doors locked, its vault empty. They'll have to swim or sink. I'm already on shore, breathing deep, alive in a dawn they'll never see.